Sal.
Hmm.
Beef.
Oh my God.
Where are we going? Got to find Crocolasso. I can't go in there. Skylar will think you're... Excuse me, that's a private conversation. Do you mind?
My time is yours. Go ahead.
Oh, gosh. What did you do with my papers? My papers. I had them all corrected last night, and I put them out in front so I wouldn't forget them on my way to school. Now, what did you do with them?
School? What you talking about?
The children will be so disappointed if I don't give them their homework back.
Give yourself some time to grieve.
Where did you put my wife?
She's dead, sir. They took her to the morgue.
The morgue? She'll be furious.
So, speaking of the morgue,
yes,
I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we are the Cinemaniacs.
Did you watch the Super Bowl at all? My boy Clayton had problems.
We taped the Super Bowl and then we fast forward to the game and watch the commercial.
Okay, that's a decent way to do it. But did you see the Bruce Willis Honda commercial?
Nope.
I thought it was had potential to be really wonderful and serious, and then they went goofy at the end, and I just thought it ruined it. So sorry, Bruce.
It is so impossible in this day that we live in, day and age, to do what I do, to wait until Monday night to watch this commercials. I have to keep going. No.
So you watch it for the commercials, not the game.
I don't care about the game.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll preview, like, I guess there's a preview of the new 24 series.
Yep,
the first glimpse during that.
Little snippets.
A lot of times they'll premiere big trailers during the Super Bowl.
Right.
I always think the Oscars should be the equivalent of the Super Bowl for entertainment commercials and things, but they never are. You never get much in the way of movie trailers during the Oscars, which is ridiculous. So I was going to make a really crude and unkind joke regarding the passing of Philip Seymour Hoffman in relation to that last clip we just saw.
No, not nice.
Which is unfortunate because he was great.
Yeah,
and
very eclectic actor.
Yeah,
not somebody. I don't think you'd go see a movie because he was in it, but he was always good. So.
He was one of those people that if he was in the movie, you knew it would at least be good for him being in the movie. He made anything better.
What's it going to take? I mean, I don't know. But I mean, whenever I see something like this happen, I hearken back to John Belushi. You know, these talents. Belushi really young, just wasting their lives, and they bring so much joy to us as viewers that it's certainly unfortunate. But it's an environment, I guess, to which I can't really relate.
No. And on that same note, let's discuss a
movies
film
we can't relate
about an early 20s sex comedy.
Please, or not please.
Speaking of dead celebrities, first of all, we have in theaters this week, Zac Efron and his two best pals are young 20-somethings in the cité who are not looking for love. They are looking to stay girlfriendless for 30 days in that awkward moment.
Oh, funny sexual repartee.
They talked about his ding-ding.
Yes, isn't that amusing?
I didn't.
Unfortunately, this film was not.
So we probably are going to have an awkward moment.
We're going to come clean. We're going to admit something to you.
So, due to technical difficulties, this on Saturday or Sunday this weekend, the theater's website had this film listed as starting a half hour later than it actually did.
Correct.
And I like to get to the theater about a half hour early. I like to soak up the vibe and mellow out and just have fun. And so I was there, I was chatting with the gang, and I walked in and the film was playing. And I thought, I must have, maybe it's the previous show. Maybe they're bumping up the show times and I'm seeing the end of the movie, so I better make sure.
Right.
So I went out and I talked to Joe and he said, oh, sorry, the website was wrong. It actually started a half hour ago. And I stood there and I thought, I wasn't really looking forward to this movie, so maybe it saved me a half hour of misery.
Right.
So I went in and I sat down, and within moments I knew who everybody was. I knew everything that was going on. So that says something about this film, that you could miss the first half hour and not really miss anything.
Right.
This, you've seen it a million times. It's the bros, it's the stoogey guys who don't care about women and all they want to do is be, stunted adolescence or prolonged adolescence, and one by one they find the right girl and it changes them, and by the last 5 minutes of the movie, love has turned them into decent human beings. For me, suffering through 3/4 of this film with these guys just being stooges and just idiots and annoying and bad people, I didn't care by the time they turned into nice guys. I'm like, yeah, but this doesn't work.
Right.
I didn't think it was funny at all for me. most of the crowd that was there, who had been in the theater longer than me, were much younger than me, and they were laughing here and there at some of the cruder stuff, but it wasn't that funny. Strangely, the soundtrack and score to this movie felt like somebody plucked it out of a movie from 1985 and shoved it in this movie, which I guess was pleasant for me, but it seemed weird. I'm like, is this like a Lost John Hughes score or something? I guess they're trying to evoke 80s sex comedies, but I don't even know if I would call this a sex comedy.
No.
I think the greatest value this movie has for anybody, honestly, is somebody who wants to see Zac Efron mostly naked. You get that, and there were giggles from the females in the audience for that, but do you want to really suffer through an hour and a half of this to get to that?
Yeah, this one seems so cookie cutter for so many other films that we'd seen before. Now again, normally I would say, gee, a retelling of a story that we've seen before for a new generation. But what was the point? As you say, the characters are really kind of unpleasant. Efron I don't think is strong enough yet, and maybe I'm showing my age here, but to hold a film. I don't know that most audiences would go to see a film just because of him. I've liked him in other stuff.
The ladies might. But.
Yeah, but I just thought these three characters, and this is really what you need, are three actors who really seem to like each other and have that bond. And I just saw I saw the clever dialogue running out on the script so constantly that I was always taken out of the film. I too, strangely enough, got there a little bit late. And as you say, when you can, this is maybe both good and bad, that you can pick up on the story so quickly that you don't have to work your way into it. But the other side, the reverse of that, was also that you could sure tell exactly where this was going.
Yeah.
And not because we'd seen it a zillion times, but well, I guess maybe that is the case, but because it was so methodical.
The question also in my mind, in retrospect, was if I didn't miss anything by not seeing that half hour, was that half hour of the film even necessary? And this is only like a 90-minute movie. So, I didn't really like anybody in this movie. I thought they were all like annoying New York people.
Which seems to be, is it us? It seems to be so much often the comment lately that we're just not liking these characters. Is that a reflection of society? Are we getting more, not us, you and me, but society getting more bitter and unpleasant? I don't think so.
I think bitter, cynical, and unpleasant is cool.
I think that seems to be the case.
To portray and to
edgy
emulate.
And kitschy, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, just fall off a bridge. I don't want to see you anymore.
Right, exactly.
Speaking of falling off things,
more than falling off bridges, and it's not even Lloyd Bridges or Jeff Bridges, as the case may be. But Mark Wahlberg happens to play a medical talent who is with an elite team of Navy SEALs. I guess that's kind of redundant, elite and Navy SEALs. But who go in and are assigned to head into Afghanistan and take out a high Al-Qaeda guy. But their better parts get the best of them when innocents travel and come into their ways. I'm having trouble working through this. But ultimately, a big battle ensues, and Mark Wahlberg becomes the lone survivor.
Okay, not a smiling movie.
No, it certainly isn't, and not one for the kiddies.
No, not at all.
Right. I did take, as is my want, my 13-year-old to it, and he liked it. You know, it's not
bad.
It's not certainly horribly, overly violent, but it's a gruesome, grim story about what war, in my totally inexperienced situation, really seems to be like, and the things that these SEALs in particular faced in this situation. Yeah, based on a true story.
Based on a true story. And actually, Marcus Luttrell, who the story is based on, the Wahlberg character, he's actually in this movie as one of the fellow Marines who's at the base camp. So whenever I see somebody who's clearly not an actor in a role that's high profile, I always think, I wonder who that is.
Right.
And at the end, you see photos of the real guys, which I thought was a great tribute to the guys. And if you haven't cried up to that point in the movie, that's gonna get it out of you probably. This is primarily against what the trailer made me think it would be. I thought the trailer would be a whole lot about, are these guys going to kill this kid in the name of protecting the mission in the war? And that is actually a brief moment in the film. That is a moral dilemma that leads to the rest of the film. The film is predominantly a firefight in the woods, which doesn't sound like much, but it's a brutal, gory. I mean, the special effects for this were done by Greg Nicotero and another one of the K&B guys who do Walking Dead, which is going to tell you that this does not shy away from the reality of war, and that it's very gruesome and explicit.
Right.
Because it's not bang bang. It's not like the video games. Bang bang and a puff of red dust and the guys fall down. This is unpleasant stuff. So most of this is a firefight, and these guys are in a really bad location, and you saw the shot in the trailer where there's a shot along the ridge, and it's a whole lot more guys than the guys are on our side.
Right.
And it's how do these guys attempt to survive this situation. And there's the moral dilemma is there, but that kind of gets set aside fairly quickly. And I found it very interesting. I found it very not mesmerizing isn't the word, but riveting is the word. Once you get into it, you're in there with these guys. It doesn't overdo the bad camera work, which I expected it would, which was great. There's a little bit of it, but it's enough to sort of throw you off guard. At one point in the movie, a woman in the theater screamed out loud. Because I won't say why. I'll say during the next trailer. Sorry, it's been a long time since I've heard that. It was just a shocking moment for somebody. Very big crowd for this movie, wide age range to like old folks to fairly young folks when I was there, and they were all kind of chatty before the movie started and making me kind of nervous.
Right, yeah.
Once the movie started, you could have heard a pin drop for 2 hours.
Right.
And I mean, I would have sworn I was alone in the theater, and even once the credits rolled, you didn't hear anybody say anything. It was really pretty. The folks at the theater used the word heavy, and that's probably the best way I would describe this. It's a very heavy film.
Right.
But I thought it was very good. If I would the short description too late would be Black Hawk Down in the Woods, is how I would sort of equate this.
Okay. I respect the filmmaking. I thought performances overall were good, and this was a very well-made film. Peter Berg, not one of my favorite directors, but does good work. Deals with these things pretty well. I have my ultimate criticisms with this, and in the long run, as a motion picture, I was disappointed in this for a couple of reasons, and I don't think this is giving anything away. We start with a scene of one of the characters being medevaced out. So you don't know what you do know, and then we kick into the rest of the film as a flashback. Boring for me, because then ultimately, if this character is in peril, I know, well, he's not really going to die at this moment. So that bothered me. I think the two other things that bothered me were, I think having, and I think Wahlberg, I think we can call him a star at this point. He's so well known, and I happen to know him so well, as the actor, that I couldn't lose him in the role. I think for me, this would have been a lot better if I hadn't been so identifiable with this major actor in this role, because I associate so many things with him. I know he's probably not going to die, again, given the title, Lone Survivor. And then the last thing was, you talked about at the end, we see these truly very touching home videos and pictures of these people, and you realize that they died, and that's very emotionally tugging. That's when I started actually feeling something for these characters. Unfortunately, I didn't throughout the majority of the film, because we didn't spend much time with them at the beginning.
It gets going pretty quickly.
And what time we did spend was very generic. Oh, they're running a course, and you see that they're bonding as men. I understand that. So the bonding I felt with the characters, and I don't think this is overanalyzing it, because it was a powerful film. The bonding I had as the audience with the characters was intellectual and not emotional. I didn't know enough about them so that when this guy breaks his back or can't get away, and we see this paper that he's fallen in love with and represents something to us, I get it, but I don't feel it. And so that bothered me. And then at the end, and strangely enough, I was thinking back to the Disney film with Saving Mr. Banks. One of the things that I liked about the end credits was we saw the actors, and then you saw the real person. And in the end credits here, you see the real people, and I can't put them together. Who was that? Was that the guy with that paper, or was it this other guy? And so I thought, as a film, I was disappointed in it. Superb action, good morals. We talk about how they have that moral dilemma of, do they kill these innocents? And their decision leads to other things. We then see kind of a parallel with other Afghanis who are against the Taliban, and they apparently, we find out toward the end, they help Wahlberg's character, the author of the story, out because of this 1,000-year-old credo that you must protect somebody who needs your help. And so there was this nice balance, but ultimately, I missed the emotional connection that I thought this film could have had with some massaging.
I see.
Sorry.
Fine. We'll talk about massaging after the show.
Okay.
So we thank our friends at Keene Cinemas for providing these films to us.
Pay attention to the website, though. Careful.
Yeah, and maybe call, too. And the first time that's ever happened in my
it's
20-year history of going
People
there.
will show up and say, oh, I read in the paper, or I read in some other website. And they'll always say, no, go to our website, because it's the first time I've ever seen it.
Yeah, so a fluke.
Inaccurate.
Which is fine. And of all the films it had to happen to, not going to
Could've
complain that it was
been
that one.
better, yes, right.
So up next, we move on to this week's video releases.
We got 5 of them, I believe.
We do.
Watch out.
Not as bad as last week. Not quality-wise in terms
Right.
of how quickly we're going to have to talk about these things. So up first is... So what do you do if you're a turkey and it's Thanksgiving? You run, turkey, run. So up first is an animated comedy starring Woody Harrelson and Owen Wilson, voices of, and Amy Poehler, entitled What Film Y'all Want to See? What film y'all want to see? Freebirds.
So this was a surprise to me.
It was very much. I wasn't really looking forward to it.
Right.
After Nut Job a few weeks ago, which was just mind-numbingly dull for me with whatever intellect I have in my head. This operated on a much higher level than
Yes.
that. It wasn't brilliant. Co-written by Scott Mosier, who's the Kevin Smith's producing writing partner. So there's a sharpness to the comedy that's great. No goo jokes. The
Yep.
reference to glutes or buttocks or whatever is about as gross as
Right.
it gets. Not a heavy reliance on pop culture references, where they think usually, we'll throw in some reference to Mad Men for the adults and they'll
Right.
love it. And I'm like, no. How about you just make it funny?
It's just clever.
And it
Yeah,
was clever and funny. Wonderful use of George Takei as the voice of this time machine, which had me laughing out loud. I actually laughed out loud a few times during this, which I don't
Right.
usually in animated films. It moved along at a really good clip. I think it was right on bang on 90, 91
Yeah, I
minutes.
think that's right.
I really liked it. I think kids would enjoy this. There's nothing inappropriate. It's time travel, which I did not expect going into this.
Right.
And some historical stuff, which you don't get in many movies anymore. And I quite enjoyed Freebirds. I would actually recommend this one to my friends.
I too was not looking forward to this. Another animated film, and about turkeys. Come on, give me a break. But this has an influx of so many fun side characters that they meet, and the guys that are coming after them, in the outfits and everything like that. Fun, clever dialogue. You get almost a sense that there's really even a backstory, an unspoken backstory to a lot of these characters. You have said, and I'll normally agree, and at the time I still do agree with it as well, but you'd said, gee, you get these animated films, and it's not, I don't think it's that you pay so much, they pay so much, but they make such a big deal out of the stars voicing it over, that who really needs that? This one, for some reason, I particularly happen to enjoy. Woody Harrelson, Takei, you mentioned, is loads of fun. And Owen Wilson, I thought they really kind of fit. And so I enjoyed that. This one was, Freebirds was a big surprise again, one I wasn't looking forward to and thought that was really pretty clever, and I too kind of have to recommend it.
I'm glad I saw
Gotta
it.
like it. Can you recommend? Well, you'll find out after we discuss it. But how believable is this? Sylvester Stallone is a super smart guy who can infiltrate and escape from the greatest of prisons because he designs them all. Okay, give that a break. Accidentally then, he gets shoved into a prison and nobody seems to know that he's really not a prisoner. He has to team up with Arnold Schwarzenegger so that they can devise an effective escape plan.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, so this one was, well, I can't say I wasn't looking forward to it. I was expecting, another Stallone, Schwarzenegger, cheesy action thingamajig, which it is. Stallone is still cheesy, and come on, I can't believe that he can think of his way out of a paper bag. But Arnold, I thought, was really good in this. There were a couple of moments, believe it or not, I thought he was acting. I really ended up enjoying this quite a bit. We didn't get it on video because we had 4 others to watch. Right. I'm probably going to go rent it again because I enjoyed it quite a bit. The whole convoluted story of, everybody's forgotten who Stallone is, and the people on the outside trying to help him get out and all that. I didn't need that. I just want to keep me in the prison, let me see Stallone and Schwarzenegger work with everybody to try to break out, and I thought it was certainly not anywhere on the level of like an Escape from Alcatraz, something clever and fun, but a decent atmospheric time waster. Time waster in an afternoon that I just really ended up, I have to say it, enjoying Escape Plan.
I think this is where this movie belongs. I saw it in the theater, and I thought at the time, I hated the first Expendables, loved the second Expendables, didn't like anything solo.
See a trailer for the new Expendables coming out.
I can't wait. Now I'm excited about the more Expendables movies. I didn't like the movies these guys did after the Expendables hit.
Right.
Stallone did a couple that were not good.
The Last Stand.
The Last Stand was awful.
Yeah.
Stallone did Bullet to the Head, which wasn't good, and I think he did another one. None of them have been good. This was better than all those others.
Okay.
So this was a lot of fun seeing these guys together in this film. You actually get a lot of Schwarzenegger in this film, unlike the Expendables movies. And it's dumb. It's big dumb action movie, but it was a pleasant big dumb action movie. I think you know, you think about people are online are always like, ooh, it's back to the 80s, ooh, we're back to the 80s. And none of these movies are. This is back to the 80s. This is going to the video store on a Friday night. Hey, look, it's Stallone and Schwarzenegger in some big dumb movie. Let's rent that with some friends. This is where this movie belongs, is being watched with a group of people on a Friday night or a Saturday night or whatever on your TV. It's not all that smart. It's kind of cool with the prison, the high-tech prison, and when the whole process of Stallone figuring out how to get out of it.
There's some little twists and turns at the end that are kind of worthwhile.
I mean, there's probably more plot than it really needs, as you said. But these two guys are fun, Schwarzenegger especially. Yeah. And you do get to see him unleash hell with high-caliber weaponry at the end.
That's always
not to give anything away. But you get what you pay for, and you get what you hope for with this movie. So I would say Escape Plan is a very solid rental.
Okay, well, good.
Hey, now it's back over to me.
It is.
So, speaking of high maximum security prisons, Paula Patton is a unhappy stewardess who is hearing her biological and romantic clock tick louder and louder as her sister's wedding approaches. So she decides, or her friends decide for her, I'm going to give you a lot of plot, and then you'll watch the trailer and they'll tell you the same thing. But let the trailer tell you. It's called Baggage Claim. Yeah, so...
this had a few moments, but...
I like Paula Patton.
Yep, I do too.
She's very pleasant. Her performance in this was a little weird.
Yeah.
It was really like she was on the Mickey Mouse Club or something.
I think direction
she had
was
had
off on this.
Head injury. She seemed the whole time. You see from the trailer what this is about.
Right.
And it's from the moment she bumps into the guy she's ultimately going to marry, it's obvious. And this is one of those romantic comedies where I'm just like, just get on with it. It's going to be this guy. Just stop beating around the bush and just end this. So it was pleasant. It was watchable.
Right.
It was pleasant enough. I didn't particularly find it funny. It's got good people in it. Had a nice look to it. But ultimately, I was just waiting for her to finally get her act together and connect with the guy that was going to end the movie.
Right. This is really struggling with a very mediocre story that you can anticipate hours in advance. Again, performances are fine. They don't really have much to do. And so it's inoffensive and pleasant enough. But yeah, I thought ultimately it was a script and directing issue that just wasn't dealing well enough with whatever acting talent they had. And this was pretty much a big fluff of kind of a fluff piece.
Yeah, probably. I don't want to say it's a good date movie.
Yeah, right.
If you're the half of the duo who rents this movie who's not terribly interested in it, just lean back on the couch and rest your eyes a little bit.
Take a quick break.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Speaking of not exactly fluff piece date movies, Matthew McConaughey plays a tough and rough Texas cowboy who has his way with pretty much anybody he wants to. And it turns out not to be the greatest thing when he finds out that he has come down with AIDS, and he has to try to deal with that and find a way to learn to accept people as he establishes the Dallas Buyers Club. Yeah, so our director giving me grief for having Matthew McConaughey come down with AIDS. Doesn't exactly happen quite that way.
He came down with a bad case of the AIDS.
Yeah, so this is an interesting film that again set back
85
in the
or
mid 80s.
It starts in 85.
I think it's in the 80s, and McConaughey is wonderful. I believe he's nominated for this role.
Rightly so.
And holy cow, you mentioned that he pulls a mechanic. One of my favorite actors. He's in loads and loads of fun, lighthearted action films that I really enjoy. This man is gaunt, and I was concerned about the actor at the time. Hopefully, because I hadn't seen him in a couple of films, and figured that he did this for the role. But my God, he looks bad. This is a fascinating character study of this person who is just lives for the day at the time and just for himself and cares nothing about anyone else, and how a wake-up call, because he finds out that he has HIV at least, and the doctors give him Jennifer Garner in, I usually don't like her, I think she played a perfectly fine, compassionate, understated role as one of his doctors. And he finds out he's got 30 days to live based on American FDA treatment. And he finds other ways to get around that and sees the trouble that other people are probably having as well. And he undergoes an interesting character shift. And I thought McConaughey was really fine. And I thought this was, again, not an enjoyable film, but a very interesting one and very well done.
That's like Lone Survivor. Do you say, oh, I really enjoyed that? Well,
yeah, right.
No, it's thoroughly unpleasant, but... you appreciate how good it is and how effective it is. It sets the mood and the tone of the time and place really, really well. And at this time, they're like, we maybe have one treatment for AIDS. We don't know if it works. And according to what McConaughey and the doctors in this time and place were finding, it didn't really do a whole lot. If anything, it may have done more harm than good. So in Mexico, he finds this alternative way of doing it.
And this, again, certainly not even a minor criticism of the FDA, that the FDA does this trial, and he's not allowed to be in it, but they find out, the doctors seem to think that it works, but they cut the trial short and shove it on off, and you find out maybe that AZT isn't as effective as it is.
And one of the things, as a minor side note, the doctor at the clinic in Mexico that he goes to is this grizzled, crazy, hippie-looking guy.
Right.
And at the end of the movie, the credits come up, and it was Griffin Dunne, who some people may know as the friend who gets mauled in American Werewolf in London. And it's a guy I've always liked, and I did not even know it was him. I was shocked.
That surprised me
I
too.
Exclaimed that, my God, that's Griffin Dunne. So I really like this. McConaughey's great. Everybody in this is really good. A personal thing. Didn't expect the heavy T-Rex influence in this film. As a big T-Rex fan, who's a band who was never known by most of this country, the fact that it actually plays into the plot, I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. Even ends with a T-Rex song. Not a smiling movie.
Nope.
Too much. Couple laughs here and there, but it's pretty grim and dark. I mean, the world that McConaughey lives in, even before he's diagnosed, is pretty skeevy and unpleasant. And it's the fringes of society at the time. It's gay people and prostitutes or just part of society that is looked down upon anyway, and then they have this disease where people don't even want them to touch them because it was so new and scary. So this whole world is very kind of in the shadows.
Well, and this could have been so heavy-handed with McConaughey's character and his performance, because he's as bad as everybody else is at the beginning before he gets HIV, by saying, just so down on all of the rest of antisocial society, and then the moment he gets it, everything turns on him, and he starts seeing obviously how he's been treated. That could have been really heavy-handed, and it wasn't. I thought this was very carefully treated.
Yeah, and probably again another side note. Arguably the smallest font I've ever seen in a film.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Even on our big TV, it was tiny, and then we wound up finishing the film on a much smaller TV, and I couldn't read what the font said. So in the theater, I guess it was legible, but don't let that. The font ain't, the words aren't that important.
Right.
Don't let that dissuade you. This is a really good movie.
Yeah, sure is.
And totally deserving of all of the awards it's up for. We watched Freebirds after this by choice.
Okay.
Because you kind of want to cleanse the palate from just that much sadness and depression of, Lone Survivor and Dallas Buyers Club in the same weekend. Speaking of palate cleansers.
Yes.
It's about a guy who finds out he can go back to any point in his life by willing himself to do so, and he uses this to make his life better and find his true love in the best way possible. It's about time.
So Rachel McAdams, whom I just love, seems to be making a career of being married to men who can travel through time.
I realized that afterwards. She was
know.
in The Astronaut's Wife, which I never saw.
Oh my God! But I'm thinking of The Time Traveler's Wife.
Oh, that's what I was talking about. I'm sorry, Time Traveler's Wife.
Yeah,
Astronaut's Wife was Charlize Theron.
Right. And Johnny Depp, I believe. So.
The Time Traveler's Wife was the one where it's like, you're always traveling in time.
Come on, where are you? But which I loved as well.
Oh, I never saw.
And I love her. This was nice and lighthearted. I found myself. I think I need to see it again because he can't go back. There are ways that he can go back in time and change things.
Yes.
But if he goes back a little bit too far, and I don't want to give away when that is, whoops, a lot more changes. Because that's one thing that I think we always worry about. I think about, I wish I could go back in time and save all the comic books that I own. But then maybe as I go along, I don't meet my wife and my sons aren't born and that kind of stuff. He finds that there are times when, oops, you go back too far, that all does happen, or you go back a little bit less far and you can change things that you like. And so that's kind of amusing. Ultimately, boy, I'm gonna feel like a real stick in the mud today.
Fuddy-duddy?
Because sort of. Because as enjoyable as this, and performances are fun, I'm a little bit taken aback by the fact that he goes back in time and nobody seems to notice that this 40-year-old version of himself goes back to when he's 20 and any of that kind of stuff. That's a very minor point. I do have, and this is putting my critic's hat on and being a stick in the mud, I do have ultimate issues with the point of this being, and I don't think this is giving anything away, but the point of this being, carpe diem, live the life, live for the day, and enjoy it. And the vast, vast majority of the time when his father's saying that and he's saying that, all I'm thinking is, well, yeah, easy for you to say. You can go back yesterday and fix all the things that you did. And there's a scene where he ends up, his dad says, learn this, live the day regularly, and it's really a pisser and things are bad, and then go back and just enjoy those little moments. Well, we don't have that opportunity. Now, ultimately, apparently, the character, and I don't want to give a whole lot away.
Well, too late.
If you're a real stick in the mud, you can turn this off for 30 seconds. Okay, I'll be back. But then he ultimately determines that he's not going to go back in time anymore, and he is just going to live his life as it is. Okay, you can come back. But it takes a while for him to learn that. And so putting my critic's hat on and being overly critical, I think, of the film, I thought that should have come earlier. I kind of got it too far in, and I'm watching them do this. But in the long run, performances are great. Bill Nighy is wonderful. Rachel McAdams is always good. I think she has not a lot to do because she's just really kind of his catch. And the fun comes in watching the different ways he's able to have fun and go back in time and change some things. And it's a clever little film that really didn't get much play at all around here.
No, it was at the Colonial for like 2 weeks, or a couple weeks ago. I loved this. I think my first thought was, is it too late to revise my favorite films from last year list? Because this would be pretty high on it.
Okay.
A time travel movie with no special effects.
Yep.
Fine, it works. Because it's good writing. What do you know? Good writing is all you need in a movie to make it good most of the time. Everybody in it is nice. It's a movie about nice people being nice to each other. Wow, what a great idea. A family that all loves each other. Shocking. This is a revolutionary film these days. Everybody in it I liked a lot.
Okay.
It was very funny. Like, when I saw this trailer, my thought was, ooh, that's going to be a crying movie. And it's a little here and there, but it is mostly very funny. Like, for me, it was laugh out loud funny a lot of times. And I just liked everybody in it. I liked that it was a romantic comedy where, as Lee used to say, nobody does something stupid and then has to go back and win them over again.
Right.
Their relationship is strong and positive and grows over time. That was nice to see. Because I expected it was going to take some sad turn where well, I don't want to give anything away. It doesn't take a terribly sad turn.
Right. We've got some great supporting characters. I particularly loved, as a standout character, the son, I forget the character's name, but goes off to college, and he has to stay with one of his dad's old friends, who is this just bizarre, quirky playwright, who is just a pain in the ass bastard. And he's just hilarious. They have great fun with that. I have to ask you this, though. I did realize, and I enjoyed this film. I highly recommend it. But I was constantly saying, you can ask my wife because she keeps track of all of my complaint moments. I'm constantly saying, is there ever going to be any conflict in this film? Because everything just maybe one little thing goes wrong and he goes back and fixes it. And I was waiting. It's 2/3 of the way through the film that anything really serious conflict occurs. So you're right. It's super lighthearted. It's a fun, edgy little ride. I don't hold it up. I happen to really like The Time Traveler's Wife, and I think we've got, for several reasons, you got to hold it up to that because it's Rachel McAdams and it's a time travel movie. I don't think it's as smart as that one, maybe, but it's a lot more fun.
I would say this would be my biggest recommendation for a new release Valentine's Day rental. I know
Probably a
Awkward
great idea,
Moment
yeah.
is posited as a Valentine's Day theatrical release. It's garbage.
Yeah.
This movie is so good.
Yeah.
Cricket and I both watched it. We loved it. And I would say also, if you want to go into the middle of the video store, go a little deeper dish, Somewhere in Time from 1980
Sure,
with Christopher Reeve and Jane
Reeve.
Seymour. I love that movie.
With a great John Barry score.
John Barry score, written by Richard Matheson, directed by Jeanette Swark, I believe.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. And that's a brilliant, wonderful movie.
That's a wonderful film.
Also about a man who wills himself back in time, and he's doing it for love. So that would be a great double for somebody. So we thank our friends at Video Headquarters for providing these titles for us because I liked the majority of them this
I thought
week.
it was a good week all around.
Yeah, it actually was. It was very light on stinkers.
Okay.
And that's all we got, really.
Yep. We whipped right through them because we were used to talking at the speed
We're
of
used
sound.
to having 18 to 20 films to talk about in an episode, and what do you know?
right.
We have 10 minutes left.
Right.
We could dance.
I don't want to see that.
All
You don't
right,
want to
fine.
see me dance, that's for
Fine.
sure.
Do you have any old business, new business, or show business?
Not really.
Oh, well, then I guess we probably should just...
We probably should.
Do
Say
it.
goodbye, and we'll see them next week.
All right, I'm Mark.
And I'm Tom.
And we're the Cinemaniacs.
Cinemaniacs.